What is up, everybody? It is Brian with First Shot Tactical, back with another video for you here today. And today we are going to be installing or also showing you how to take out a mil-spec trigger in an AR lower. If you've been following my Aero Precision build series, this is for the people that are not using a drop-in trigger. So I do have a video showing you if you bought like a Rise Armament drop-in trigger, how it's super easy to just drop in and then put the pins in and you're good to go. But if you have a mil-spec trigger like this one here, where it's two separate components or several components, and you want to install a trigger in this format, I'm going to show you how to do that here and also how to take it out if you need to do that as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so as you can see here, I have the lower all stripped here. All I have is the buffer tube on there. I even removed the grip and the detent and spring here. So all of my parts are set aside here. So let's go ahead and begin the install. As you can see, it is helpful to have the grip off here and the safety selector out in order to get your trigger in first. So that's why I have everything off. All right, so tools we're gonna need. We are gonna need a little punch like this one here in order to feed through our trigger holes here. They're gonna help capture it as we put this in. So you are gonna need something like this. And the first part is to actually install the trigger part here. So here's the trigger. One thing to note, make sure you have your spring on it here when you go to install it. And the other part that goes with this is this part here. So the way this works is this will feed in between as shown like this. And when you do so, you can see this hole here by my finger, my thumb. They will create a hole to put the pin through. And then also there's gonna be a little tension on this rear spring right here. So you gotta kind of hold this all in place, feed your punch through, and then feed that pin through so that way it's all captured. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm gonna grab my lower. I have all this kind of assembled for the most part, and I'm gonna try and drop it in without it all falling apart. There we go. That's a good start at least. You can normally grab the trigger from it right here. There is going to be tension on it because there is the springs there holding it down. But basically you want to try and line the hole up here like this. Line that hole up. And then at the same time, line the hole up for this middle part. To do this though, I like to take a punch. I come in on the right side of the receiver. I start it here and then pull the trigger down. Actually pull the trigger down first. Feed our punch through in order to get it caught first. We go ahead and feed it. Feed it in like that. So then just this half of it is caught. And then now I like to take my thumb, push down on the center part here in order to line up that middle hole and then keep pushing my punch through. So there you go, just like that. I know it kind of happened quick, but as you can see, our punch is all the way through and we do have that middle part captured. So you just got to put some pressure on it and feed the punch through in order to capture it. So now we can grab our pin here, and the proper way to install it to my knowledge is to come in from the left side of the receiver, and you can see it goes this way. So you don't want to put it this way with the little notch first. You want to put the fat end with no notch in first. So basically I'm just going to try and wiggle this through while pushing my punch out and keeping everything captured. So I'm going to try and do this in one fluid motion here. I'm pushing, slowly pulling back my punch. Like so. And then if need be, put some pressure on that center part as well. And then we almost got it through. And there we go. Perfect. It does take a little bit of finesse and wiggling there, so just be patient with it. But once you have it in, it's now captured and it's good to go. So the next thing I always recommend is installing your safety selector next before you install the hammer, because it might be under tension once you put the hammer in and difficult to install your safety selector. And sometimes you even need to install this before that there. So just a heads up there, you might need to install this at the same time as this, but typically you can install the safety selector right now. So to install this safety selector, this is just a standard one here. I'm gonna go ahead and hold it in place here. I'm gonna grab our detent that we have here, the little guy everyone always jokes about losing. We're gonna drop it into the hole there. And then I'm gonna grab my grip and the spring, the detent spring. I like to go ahead and install the spring on the grip like so. And then now I'm going to try and do this without flipping it. Let me see if I can turn it over for you here. There we go. And basically go ahead and slide this in, make sure our detent's in there, right here where the spring is, and then push that together. with that together, you can hold it with one thumb here, grab our screw that we got to put in, and then you got to try and find the hole here. No jokes intended. There we go. Went and got it in the hole. I think the easiest way is to kind of slide it horizontally like I just did here, and then you can go ahead and tighten this guy down. Perfect, there we go. Now we got that tight and our grip is on and our safety selector is on too and works. All right, with the grip and safety selector on and our trigger part in, the last thing we have to do is install the hammer, and we're gonna do the same process that we did for the trigger. So I'm gonna grab my hammer here, and to install this, I like to put it in diagonally first and then twist it because those springs might try and pop out. And then once you have the springs, they go on the back end like this here, and then you can feed them down like so. So you don't want them up here and you don't want them all tangled up or one way or the other. You want both of these little legs behind the trigger, and then you're gonna go ahead and feed this down in front. So with the hammer loosely in and those legs behind the trigger, as you can see back here, both of them are. The next thing I like to do is switch it over to this side here. Use your thumb to push towards the hole here because we got to get this hole lined up with that one. And then we're going to get our punch to go ahead and hold everything together. So go ahead and push it down and towards that hole. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. If you have a vise, this will be a lot easier to do. But basically push that down until we can find the hole. And then there we go. Use our punch to go ahead and hold it in place. With everything held in place, we're now ready to insert the last pin here. Same thing here. You're going to insert the long end so that the part without the little cutout goes in this way. So we're just going to kind of slowly push it through as we pull our hammer out, or our punch out on the other side. So I had to use a knee here because I'm not doing this on a vise. That way I can do it on camera for you. But sometimes it helps to push this hammer all the way back to the locked firing position because then everything's in place. And then as you can see, it went through a lot easier. And looks like it just needs a little bit more. You see on this side, looks like we're a little off. So you just got to kind of wiggle it down, push it through. Come on, baby. There we go. Perfect. There we go. So now you can see it is flush on both sides here, and our pin is in. Last thing to do is function check it here. Make sure your work actually worked. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure and use your thumb here. It's on safe, should not fire. Let's put it to fire. You can see there the hammer releases. Let's reset it. Let go. Good. Pull the trigger again. There we go. Hammer goes. Reset. Safe. Awesome. Look at that. Got a fully functioning trigger in our lower now. So that's how you install the trigger. If you need to stick around and you need to see how to take out a trigger to put a different one in, let's go ahead and begin that process now then. All right, so the first thing I like to do to remove the trigger is actually remove the grip here. So I got my screwdriver in here, and this just helps as far as the tension on the safety selector on the trigger. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. And with this off here, be careful not to lose your detent spring as well as the actual detent. You can see it just fell out of the hole on the bottom, and there goes our safety selector as well. So set our detent and our spring aside here. And then also, like I said, the safety selector did fall out there, so we're gonna set that aside as well. And our grip screw. So now we have just the lower without the grip. Next thing we're gonna do is we are gonna carefully take a punch and get rid of this top hammer part here first. And I like to go from this side here, so from the left side of the receiver, pushing it out the right. And be careful here, there is tension on this, so this will want to kind of shoot out, but I like to use the punch as a kind of capture piece here, like so. So I push the punch through, hold it in there, and as you can see, my pin did come out here. So I'm gonna set that aside here. If it doesn't roll away, there we go. So the next thing we're gonna do is carefully take our punch out. And what I like to do, because the hammer is in the firing position, is pull the trigger here, and that will release the hammer forward. And now just be very careful not to let this fling across the room as you pull your punch out. And I'm gonna try and wiggle it out real slow. There we go. And just like that, now you have your hammer out, and we can set that aside. With the hammer out, all we have to do is remove the trigger pin here as well. So same thing, I'm gonna come from the left side and push it out towards the other way, and then use my punch as the keeper. So there we have our pin out. We can set that aside. And then now same thing, I just want to be careful. There isn't actually any tension on this, so I can pull this back out. Actually, there's a little bit on the part here. And with our pin out, or our punch, now we can see we can lift the entire trigger housing out, which I'm going to try and do carefully. There we go. And here is our trigger part. So there's several parts to the trigger here, and it might fall apart as you take it out, so no worries. You have this top part here like this, and the most important part here is the spring. Sometimes it'll stay captured down in there, sometimes it won't. But just a heads up, you want to make sure and not lose any of the parts on your trigger. So with all the parts out there, you can see we now do not have a trigger in there. And if we wanted to swap a trigger and add a different one in or put a drop-in trigger, we're good to go and we can do that now. So there you have it. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, like and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, I do have a full Aero Precision builder playlist, and in the video I do a drop-in trigger, but I wanted to put this one up to help anybody who's using a mil-spec type trigger if they need to remove it or add it into their build. And if you have questions, let me know down below. Always happy to help. And until next time, have fun shooting, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.